What's up, Camden County, Allison Shores, Camden County Chamber of Commerce, and you are catching the 11th episode of the Getting in Your Business podcast. And before we get started, I just want to say we are looking for some sponsors for the show. So if you are interested, please contact the Chamber at 912-729-5840. All right, back to business. So today we are going to talk all things outdoor recreation in Camden County. And I'm so excited because I have somebody that I've gotten to work with the last 7 years since I've been here. You were with me as my chairman of the board the first year I was here as the chamber president. So he's also been a longstanding chamber member, I think, over 20 years. With Camden Bicycle Center. So please welcome Terry Landreth, owner of Camden County Bicycle Center.
All right. Thank you, Allison. And thank you for the invitation to come. And I really appreciate the chamber and all it does around our community. I appreciate that the extra effort of putting together a podcast and putting together all these elements of setting this up so we have information that we can share across Camden County. I do own Camden Bicycle Center with my wife. We've owned it for 24 years. And it's a small business in Camden County, and we enjoy it a lot. Our overarching industry is known as the outdoor recreation industry. And I always like to stop and say, number one, if you're in business in Camden County, you need to be part of the Chamber of Commerce, number one.
Amen.
Number two, if you're a small business of any type, no matter what your goods and services are, you're an ambassador for Camden County also. Mm-hmm. And that's where my role extended out from our shop, our work center, our showroom. The outdoor recreation industry extends outside. And even this morning, I have engaged already with, had to make deliveries for folks visiting our Cumberland Island National Seashore today.
I love that you take bikes so that they can take them over to the island.
We take reservations.
Yeah, reservations.
And we deliver bikes over to the island for the folks over there. We think the island is something special. It is a national seashore. There's always things can improve. I'd love to see the numbers increase for the visitors around our country could see it. If you're a person that enjoys national parks, you know about Cumberland Island National Seashore.
Absolutely.
This weekend, Memorial Day weekend, we are jam-packed with rentals going over. And as I use the word ambassador, we are in any industry in our community, we become the welcome center for all things in the community. We have new folks arriving to the community. We have new employees coming to the base. We have new visitors going to Cumberland Island. They stop in, they say hello, they make a phone call, they send a text, send an email. Mm-hmm. And that engagement is where the outdoor recreation come to. Because I tell people we've been, we're part of the Trek Bicycle Corporation, Giant Bicycle Corporation, and Electra Bicycle Corporation. So those are some of the biggest names in our industry for recreational bikes. We can handle everything from a pro racer down to training wheels and
down to like electric bikes. Let's go there for a second because I've gotten to ride one of those things and they're amazing. Electric
bikes. There's a fun part of my business also. I built 3 yesterday and I have somebody come over to look at one today, but we deal with a company. Well, all of our major companies deal with electric bikes now. Mm-hmm. And if this is Terry's part of electric bikes. This is my part. I'm not anti-electric bike. There's some folks out there that are just so anti-electric bikes. Not me. Electric bikes have opened up opportunities for more folks to explore our great outdoors.
And that's what I love.
That's what it is. And that great outdoors may be your community, your neighborhood, where you haven't gone across the street to see what's happening on the other side of your community. And that e-bike gives you that opportunity to do that. What we find is folks that are there's a group of age groupers that are buying e-bikes. No kidding, some are past my age, and
which is 25, so it could be anybody.
plus a few decades. So those e-bikes are once again opening up opportunities for people to explore. I have a couple in town that husband and wife, they're snowbirds here. They live 6 months here. They live 6 months in the Adirondacks. Each e-bike has over 14,000 miles on it. And most of those miles are listed right around their home. They'll go to Jekyll Island every once in a while. They'll go to Okefenokee Swamp every once in a while. most of those miles are simply going around their immediate
neighborhood.
Their neighborhood. Yeah, their neighborhood.
I love that.
They explore the neighbors. They'll, instead of driving the car, they'll go down with their bikes and grab a cup of coffee. They'll do other things.
Well, something that I hear in Camden County a lot is, Elsa, there's nothing to do here. And, I know what they're really talking about. They're talking about, more just things that they can get their children involved in.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that we forget about is where we actually live.
Yeah.
We have some of the coolest environments here. I mean, and so there's so much to do outside, and it's beautiful. Yeah. And so I want to talk about some of those things before we get into like what some of these things are. I want to talk about okay, so what do we have? What do we have to offer?
Okay,
so we've got some
great question, great segue. As I say, for my store is one thing, but we go outside the walls there every single day, and we are glad to be an information center for things around our community. We got engaged with years ago with doing certain things like the East Coast Greenway and part of that. So I'd like to start off and say there's some great opportunities in Camden County. If we start from a high level, we could say Cumberland Island National Seashore.
Absolutely.
So that's part of the National Park Service. We have a beautiful 500-acre Crook River State Park.
And listen, they have so much going on out there.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that you can walk your dogs, you can go ride your bikes, you can take just a little hike, you can fish.
Well, I love to see young dads come in. They're buying a bike for their young son, 6, 7, 8 years old. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things I tell young dads, say, take your son to Crook River State Park. He can explore the trails on his bike. He can have a good time. They're not difficult. Mm-hmm. They're marked. They're shaded. There's water. You can have a picnic. Then you can go to the playground, and then all of a sudden you have a complete Saturday morning activity that's going to be super memorable for you and your family, or your son and your daughter. But I mean, that one is easy.
There's also a little mini putt-putt, mini golf course little thing. It's so cute. Like, there's so much.
There's a recreation or exercise stations there, mm-hmm. and which is fairly new to the park. You know how many visitors are at our park annually? Crook River State Park?
I should know this, but tell me.
Over 200,000.
What?
Over 200,000 visitors just to our state park. How about Cumberland Island?
I don't know those numbers either.
Cumberland Island is a little bit different because it's controlled. 60,000 annual visitors to Cumberland Island, and that's controlled by Congress. And so 300 folks a day are all that's allowed to go to Cumberland Island. On
Cumberland Island, there's so much history and so much. The wild horses, like that. Yeah. That in itself is cool.
If you, So a little segue there. I was working with a lady yesterday from Gwinnett County. She's coming down this weekend, and she's bringing her 15-year-old daughter. Mm-hmm. And she says, Terry, is it going to be difficult to see the horses? I said, no. I said, that's normal. Yeah. I said, this is normal for us. You will not have to go search out any wild horses. They will be there. You'll see them. Mm-hmm. How about the beach? I said, a short walk to the beach. Is the beach good? I said, the beach is so different than any other beach.
It's so peaceful.
Yeah. And
I can't explain it.
Well, when you stand on this beach, you look behind you and you don't see a condo, you don't see a hotel, you don't see a road. It's you and whoever you brought with you. And it is so, so different. So that was neat to work with somebody out of Gwinnett County that's coming down. I could repeat that story day after day after day after day. And so if we go around from Cumberland Island, and like I said, I even appreciate not only the staff there, the directors, but all the volunteers who are residents of Camden County. Mm-hmm. I talked to Kat this morning. I don't know her full name, Kat. She is a volunteer. Deb's a volunteer. Debbie's a volunteer. Mike's a volunteer. These are all volunteers who have taken their time and energy and to make our community really shine for that visitor going to Cumberland Island, and which that is so, so important. Now let's go we've gone from State Park to the National Seashore. Let's jump off to some of our community parks also. Yeah. So our community parks, one of the cool ones is the Sugar Mill Tabby Ruin Site. Mm-hmm. If you're a photographer in our area, everybody knows.
You've been here. You've been there.
You know where it's at. And that is the largest freestanding Tabby Ruin site on the East Coast. And it's pretty unique as oyster shells. And I'm going somewhere with this, but it's known as the John C. McIntosh Sugar Mill Tabby Ruin Site. Mm-hmm. So when you add outdoor recreation and you add historical element, you then create more opportunities, or you create another person that can come and enjoy your community. Maybe they're not the person that wants to go out on a boat. Although when I was making deliveries this morning, we had local boat traffic using our boat ramps to go out on the water.
Which I love to see that.
I do too. I'd love to see.
Please use those ramps,
Yeah, because the outdoor recreation industry touches many elements of our community. Just for an example, RV parks, all part of the outdoor recreation community. Boat sales, all part of the outdoor recreation community. Boat repair, fishing, sea-doos, anything, off-road vehicles like four-wheels, side-by-sides. Those are all part of the outdoor recreation community. All those elements come into there because to have more opportunities to go outdoors, you have to have money.
You do.
You got to have money. You got to have money. You have things set aside. And so with that, now let's go back to Camden Bicycle Center once again. Early on, we had the opportunity to open our store up and get involved with the Trek Bike Corporation, and lots of management training, lots of things that we do for technical advice and service and sales and all sorts of stuff. But one thing the president, John Burke, told me, he said, Terry, he goes, you have to be that hub in your community for all things, kind of that knowledge of what's going on in the community with biking. And I struggle with this sometimes because, number one, my thinking is, well, everybody wants to have a pretty bike. Nobody's ever come in the store and say, hey, I need a red bike or a blue bike. They may have something they're thinking about. Most of the time, the number one question that comes in is, where can I ride safely?
Yes.
Where can I go for a ride? And I like folks to be able to ride in their own backyard. So that's where I got involved in some greenways and trails and greenways and rail trails, and tried to understand and what we had as resources in our community for trails and greenways, what we needed, where we go from there. This goes back many, many years, probably 20 years ago. We did our first Camden County Bicycle and Pedestrian map with the Coastal Regional Commission. They gave us the emphasis to start, and we lined up everything for every neighborhood, every school system, and every point of interest in our community that have walking and biking trails. Well, we've taken that and stepped it up many, many times over. But you have to have some type of funding when you're trying to do these things. The state parks and national parks cannot operate without funding mechanisms. They're subsidized by people coming in with an RV and spending money in their shop and spending money to camp. But most of the time, it's not enough. So if you're trying to provide more access and more trails and more greenways, more opportunities for outdoor recreation, it's got to be a money source. You have to have a money source. And so that's where I like to talk about the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program. 2018, it's funny, this week, we had elections this week. In 2018, we had elections, same time frame. The Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Act was on the ballot for Georgia residents to ask them if they would like to provide monies into a fund that could support outdoor recreation. Something like 80% of Georgians voted for it. Didn't matter, Republican, Democrat, Independent, non-party, it didn't matter. It was overwhelmingly supported. Drive that to this week, there's actually another bill that's in Congress it's called the Explore Act, and I ask people to please look this up.
It's called the Explorer?
The Explore Act is the quick acronym for it. The Explore Act is going to open up more opportunities for our national parks, better access to public lands, better access, including long-range trails. And long-range trails are probably a new word to a lot of folks, but long-run trails are like the East Coast Greenway.
Okay, so listen, we've been talking East Coast Greenway since I met you.
Yep.
So let's tell everybody what the East Coast Greenway is, because I don't know if most people know. I mean, I'm sure they've heard the term because it's been everywhere, but what is it?
I want it to be everywhere. I want that term to be everywhere, because the East Coast Greenway is home offices in Durham, North Carolina. And so let me say this. The East Coast Greenway does not come to your community or my community or your community. They do not come here and build trails. What they do is encourage to use trails and connect with what they're doing. So we have a spine route. The East Coast Greenway goes for 3,000 miles.
I was about to say, how many miles? 3,000?
3,000 miles. Okay. It goes from Calais, Maine. It ends up in Key West, Florida. Okay. I personally have been on a good bit of it. I haven't done the whole thing yet, but
so the whole goal is to be able to bike safely from Maine to Key West.
So think about not just biking, but because in certain communities, like I'll give you an example, the Washington Mall is on the East Coast Greenway.
Okay.
The American Tobacco Trail is on the East Coast Greenway. The Amelia Island Trail is the East Coast Greenway. Those are locally driven and locally promoted things. So it's just what's in your community. Here.
So basically you're taking all the different communities and they worry about their part of how do you get through their town safely.
Yeah, there's links that go there.
Yeah.
And the other part is this, if we, for instance, in coastal Georgia, we have the least number of trails on the ground in Georgia. South Carolina is right behind us with the least number. Myrtle Beach is very good. Calais, Maine, for instance, and New Hampshire, they have opportunities for snowmobile trails where we don't have that. Well, that's unique to their community.
Right.
But what we have is marshes, and we have opportunities for ferries that could go between here and Fernandina. That would be very unique to our community. It wouldn't be the normal for most communities. It's not normal up in Brunswick, but Brunswick has some very unique things like Jekyll Island in their community. So the East Coast Greenway would want to have a link over to Jekyll Island. It's a community-driven project that is national footprint, though. And that national footprint is so important. As of 2023, documented 50 million users.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it's sort of a strange thing to say. 50 million.
Yeah.
I can't relate to that number in Camden County. But if you add all the communities it touches, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., it touches all those major urban centers, but it also touches remote areas like Woodbine, Georgia, White Oak, Georgia.
Yeah.
Those get
big cities.
They get exactly the same promotion, though, as the Washington Mall. It's exactly the same organization that's doing that. So when we talk the East Coast Greenway, it comes down to the idea of connection and a transportation element, a conservation element, and a historical element. When you talk a greenway like the East Coast Greenway, we're going to drive it into our community, which is to unique places of our community. Now, we've already named some of those. We named the Cumberland Island National Seashore. Pretty unique. Nobody else can claim that. Crook River State Park. Nobody else can claim that except for us. We want people, if they want to do a long distance trail, we want them to have an opportunity to see the Crook River State Park. Sugar Mill Tabby Ruin Site. Once again, we see that as a very interesting location. Yeah. I also think Doodads is pretty interesting up on Kinlaw.
Listen, I've stopped there and they have some of the best food. Continue. You're the reason I even know about Doodads.
Well, that's right, because I think that's pretty unique to us.
Yes.
Woodbine, the Woodbine Opry's up there. But also Woodbine has one of the oldest rail trail projects in the state of Georgia. And the Woodbine Rail Trail project is really unique to our community. And when you talk about the East Coast Greenway, like I said, they don't drive the project. They engage with the local community, and you tell us where those points of interest are. The end goal is the same. The end goal here from Georgia, we want to get a traveler to Florida.
Yes.
That's all we want to do. We get them to Florida. And so Florida then picks them up, and they show them the unique places in Florida. Guarantee you that they go to St. Augustine. Guarantee you that they go to Vero Beach. Guarantee you they go to Miami.
Yeah.
And so they explore the whole thing. But state by state, there's 15 states of the East Coast Greenway touches, and each one of them has different challenges. Obviously, we have a lot of water we have to cross here, too. The East Coast Greenway is one of those things that I found out early on that could be a real promise to our community, because people are asking the store. Remember, they come in the store and say, hey, where can I ride safely at?
Yep.
Well, here's the thing the East Coast Greenway says. If your greenway is going to be part of us, it has to have design standards. And those design standards say things like certain widths. It should be available for an electric scooter, mobility. Folks are in mobility. So it should be available for all folks also. So there's certain design standards. So if you got a little dirt road, well, that can stay there and that's fine, but it won't be part of the East Coast Greenway.
Okay.
So the design standards are what's unique. and then it has certain signage. And our county is actually signed with the East Coast Greenway from the county line up Glenn County on US 17 all the way into Florida. So it's all, the signs are already there. But the other design standard is separated from traffic. Separated from traffic, because number one, people want to be safe where they ride it, because that's when they come in the store. They say, "Hey, where can we ride safely?"
Yeah, and I've been telling you since I met you, like, it makes me so nervous when I see people bicycling so close, like especially on 17. You know,
17. Yeah.
Oh, I get nauseous.
Well, so let's go back to the Dennis is the director for the East Coast Greenway, and I was listening to the State of the Union for the East Coast Greenway, and that's where the 50 million folks came in. Most of the 50 million, though, are within a few short miles of their home. So the idea of a long distance trail doesn't mean that your community is going to get 50 million people.
Right. It's honestly going to be our local people taking advantage.
It's going to be the folks that
safe
come
places
here
to ride.
Yeah. And so we talked to, when we started, we were thinking the overall industry is outdoor recreation. Now, in the outdoor recreation, the person that's engaged with outdoor recreation, we refer to them as an outdoor enthusiast.
Okay.
So you have an outdoor enthusiast, and it doesn't matter if they are a kayaker or a bike rider or a rock climber or, a sea-doo or whatever. It doesn't matter. You give an outdoor enthusiast one more thing to do. They will stay in your community one more night.
Exactly.
They will stay in your hotel. They will eat in your restaurants. They will buy your knickknacks. If they're a fisherman, they're going to find that hot spot. If they're a golfer, they want to go see the next golf course. If they're a disc golf player, they want to find the local disc golf course.
And we have a disc golf
We have
course.
a disc golf course.
Tell everybody where that is.
It's over right off of Gross Road inside of Howard Peoples Park.
I don't think most people know that, and I think it's a cool little addition we've added.
So I'll tell you, technology driven.
Yes.
Because if you're a disc golf player and you're an avid disc golf player, you know about it's called Gum Branch Disc Golf. And it's a neat little thing, because when we were setting the disc golf up, there's a young man by the name of Andrew. He was local here. Local, what I mean by that is he was active duty Coast Guard by way of Texas, and the Coast Guard brought him here, and I had a chance to talk to him, and he was telling me about disc golf. And I said, Andrew, I'm probably not catching this. I don't think I've ever seen disc golf. And my picture was a manicured golf course, like, Osprey Cove.
That's not it.
He goes, "Oh no, we want trees."
Yes, all the trees.
And
because you got to take that disc and like flip it around.
Well, what I found out was it's actually a very engaging outdoor recreation sport.
Yeah.
And our local spot here, you use an app. UDisc is the name of the app. UDisc. Okay. You download the app. It's got the course on there, so your course cards are there. It is self-supported, which means is you walk up with your water bottle and your disc and you go play.
That's it.
There's nobody to check in with.
I love it.
They'll point to the restrooms and you'll see the course is marked. It's available for you.
Well, too, another sport that's kind of catching, I guess, I don't know, catching fire. I don't know what the word is. I'm losing it there, but is pickleball.
Oh my God!
Everybody is like the fastest growing sport, but it's so cool. I actually want to get into pickleball. I haven't, because I love tennis.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, maybe I can do pickleball.
You can do pickleball. Everybody can do pickleball.
So we do have some courts around here.
We have wonderful courts around here that are getting a lot of use. I have a chance to the other day talk to a lady who is very active in pickleball. And she says, Terry, the pickleball courts need some attention. I said, I know. And I said, I'm happy about that because, number one, that means people are using them.
People are using it.
Number two, they're inviting their neighbors to come. Yeah. It's a very sociable event. I see pickleball going indoors.
Yeah.
I see it because people don't want to wait when the summertime it gets too hot. They want to go indoors. And
too, it rains a lot too.
It does rain a lot.
And you don't know when that's going to happen here in South Georgia.
But it is the fastest growing sport, and we have lots of details about that. And here's the other thing else is we talk about sports as a umbrella or outdoor recreation. I am open to all of it. I love to go whitewater rafting as much as I like to ride my bike.
Yeah.
I like to go explore the mountains as much as I like to go deep sea diving. And so that's to me is just outdoor recreation is important, and it's social aspect, all sorts of exploring aspect. Find out about an area. There's a famous Shackelford, and he was a famous explorer that went down to the South Pole. And I think we should have that same type of desire to explore our backyard And that backyard means what's here.
Yes.
What is here that I haven't seen yet? And what is here outside?
And there's so much here. And I think people don't realize that, when I first started here, I had to explore myself. And I was, talking to different people, and they're like, well, have you done this? And have you done this? And I'm going to be honest, one of my favorite parts is the Riverwalk in Woodbine. It's beautiful. And the money spent to build that. And, it's even got a little education. I don't know what you call those little things, but
educational placards.
Yes. And it's so cool. And I think we're missing out on how beautiful it truly is here, and the things that we have that you can do outside that don't cost you anything. It's not,
Let me give you a little quick one about that, because I'm the biggest fan of Woodbine too. And the previous mayor up there, they've only had 3 mayors in 40 years. So Mayor Burford Clark, and a good friend of mine, I love his stories. But he drew out he actually when the railroad was going to be abandoned, and he told me the story. Matter of fact, it was funny. He told me the story in this office right here. I hadn't thought about that, but we were in this office, and he was telling me, because I was always picking his brain about how it happened. Because can you imagine Woodbine without the Riverwalk? No, we can't either. No, it's been there for 25 years. He was a trailblazer. Let's use that since we're talking about trails. So Burford Clark was a trailblazer in the idea of trails and greenways in Camden County. He literally drew it on a napkin. He wanted it nice and curvy. He wanted certain trees planted on it. He wanted the sustainable element of the citizens of Woodbine could come explore. They have picnic areas. They have gazebos on there. There's grave sites on there, and the Riverwalk then goes down by the marsh, and it has those exploratory plaques on there. You can fish off of it. You can launch your boat at the boat ramp and go around. He had the foresight also to buy the property across the Satilla River. So the city of Woodbine owns that. Then they go from Woodbine south all the way to a community known as Liza Rudolph. So it's been paved down to Liza Rudolph. And the connecting pieces with the neighborhood of Liza Rudolph to downtown Woodbine, you can live at the Liza Rudolph community and get on your bike and go check your mail at the post office on the trail. You don't have to touch US 17. The trail comes right up by US 17. Also, there's actually a Boy Scout camping area on the trail, and there's outdoor showers. And so with that, and I've only been part of a team that was doing things for grant writing. And so these early grants, we were able to apply from Department of Natural Resources grants known as the recreational trails grants. Now, these are low dollar. Originally, it was about $100,000 annually. Now it's up to $200,000 annually, and these grants go across the state of Georgia. They're very competitive. But if you look at some of the trails, the restrooms on the trails of Woodbine, that's where some of that money came from. So this is kind of funny, but I asked one time when I was at a training evolution, I said, where does this money come from for these recreational trails grants? I like recreational trails grants. The money actually comes from the recreational outdoor industry that is using fuel bought at our regular gas stations that are not using our roads. Now, let me give you an example of that.
I was like, wait a second. Like travelers coming through what? Then what?
Boats. 4x4s. Side-by-sides. Utility vehicles. Any vehicle outside of the farming industry. Okay, so they're buying fuel at your local gas station. They're paying the road use tax, but they're not using the road. So the Department of Natural Resources got with the Department of Transportation and said, here's a certain amount of monies that people are paying for the roads, but they're not using the roads. Let's put that in recreational. Well,
that's creative.
It's very creative. Sense. Yeah, and so that money comes back. You know the hard part? You have to apply for it. You got to write a grant. So
that's something I was going to touch on too before we get into that was, how do you make all these things happen? And I think, to the normal citizen, when you're not involved and you're just living in the community, I don't think they know that it's a process, that these things, we don't just get awarded these and put the sign up and it's all done. There's a whole process, and sometimes it can take years.
Yeah, sometimes you got to have, as we say, well, I hope that happens. Well, hope's not a plan.
It's not.
So you got to have a plan. You got to have some volunteers that'll help you out. I've never met an elected official who was not in favor of safer transportation, safer pedestrians, safer biking, safer trails. I've never met never. That comes down to, priorities. So if your community needs a new fire truck, you get a new fire truck. If your community needs a new sewer system, you get a sewer system. So it's a priority. It is up to all the locals and volunteers to let our elected officials know this is important. This is driving commerce. It's driving safety. And so that's where it comes down to. But yeah, you got to have a plan.
And you got to have people that care about it, like yourself. Like I know personally how many, like you have put in so much time because you care and because you have a passion for this stuff. And, it takes somebody that has that to even get the ball rolling to know what you can do. Because on the outside, we want all these things. We want it, and we wanted it yesterday, but it takes time, and it takes people actually putting their money where their mouth is and their time where their mouth is.
Time is a big thing. But I'll tell you the exciting thing also is we've made great headway. I'm super proud of our elected officials and our staff, and from the county to the cities, and they've been very engaged with us. And let me just give an example here. The trail that's opened up during COVID, the Laurel Island Parkway, is a 10-foot wide, separated from traffic, goes all the way across exit 6, all the way down to Winding Road. That's 5 miles of trail that's available for anybody that wants to walk their puppy, they want to go jog it, they want to ride their bike. It's separated from traffic.
I remember cutting the ribbon on this.
We cut the ribbon on it several years ago. We had a lot of folks there, but all of a sudden, that's what it took. Now, it took a lot of effort with the DOT and going to public meetings and letting the information continue to flow. And early on, we did have a plan together called the Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan that was done by the Coastal Regional Commission. All we had to do was bring that plan forward and say, listen, you've got to add this in because it's already approved by all of our elected officials. So, it takes some effort, takes some education. But the other part of it is our local folks who continue to support. I mean, they support us at our store. They support as volunteers on Cumberland Island. They're going to use the facilities like the pickleball folks. They wear that place out there.
They do. I love it.
The disc golf course, those things were not done in vain. They're used all the time, along with all of our softball fields and baseball fields. They're used. If things are not being used, I'm not for doing it. But we have folks that are using these trails, using these greenways, using our facilities, and they're good. Now, the other folks that super excite me are when they move to our community and they are used to, like, for instance, let's use an example of the Atlanta Beltline. The Atlanta Beltline is one of the hottest projects going in the United States right now. It has an element of commerce. It has an element of recreation. It has an element of conservation.
I don't know what that is. But
the Atlanta Beltline is a 22-mile loop around Atlanta, which is a former trolley system.
Okay.
And it is the hottest property. It's been featured on HGTV. It's one incredible facility, and they want more of it, more of it. So when you get somebody who's moved to your community and they're used to hearing the Atlanta Beltline or more trails or more greenways, or they were in, say, Stockbridge, Georgia, or they were in wherever. They're coming there, or Peachtree City is another good one. Yeah. So they were used to facilities that were just really, really good, and they had zero to do with it. But all of a sudden they come here and like, how come we don't have it here? Well, we're a smaller community. Yeah. We don't have those type of, influx of persons. And so now we're getting those. But that's not a negative to me. That's not a negative because they're used to it. And I can tell you, all I have to do is say, listen, I need you to tell that story to our elected officials because they're the ones who make the decisions on where the money goes to. Or they're the ones who make the decision what the grant writer is going to write a grant for. And so those are the kind of information that needs to be out there, needs to be strong. So no, I use those as educational tools. Those are folks that are coming in, they're used to it. Florida's been gangbusters of trails and greenways, but Florida is an engine of tourism. And
for sure.
That is
for sure. That's what they do.
That's what they do. That's what they do there.
Yeah.
If you think Florida, you think tourism.
You do.
So they put a lot of money back in outdoor recreation because they recognize that Disney World is pretty cool.
It makes sense.
But everything else is about outdoor recreation. So best streams and lakes and rivers and everything down there. So we talked a little bit about the outdoor recreation as a whole. Explore Act, the East Coast Greenway. Did that kind of clear that up?
Yes, you cleared all that up for me.
Okay, but hang on a second. The East Coast Greenway, I want to go back there just a second because now let's focus it in Camden County.
Yeah.
I like to drive things down from sort of that top down. And as we push the East Coast Greenway, I'm a big supporter. As a matter of fact, this is just a volunteer effort I do. I'm the Georgia representative for the East Coast Greenway. And there's 15 states, and so there's 15 representatives, and so it's just a thing I do. And so from Savannah to St. Mary's, if you could only imagine a separated, at least 10 feet wide trail that would connect Savannah down to Midway, to Darien, to Riceboro, to Townsend, cross to Jekyll Island, make our way into White Oak, Waverly, Woodbine, Kingsland, and then somehow connect over to St. Mary's. It becomes very personal as you see that, and the East Coast Greenway then supports us on that. The organization is the East Coast Greenway. With that, also, our points of interest are super high. And recently as let's just say February this year, we were approved for a Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Grant of $1.7 million.
What?
Yeah. So that's
amazing.
Yeah. It's amazing. But
speaking of time and work.
It's taking time and work. And so we got $1.7 million of Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Grant. And you'll hear that referred to as GOSA.
Yeah.
The GOSA fund just started in 2020.
Okay.
2020. Okay. 2020, 2021. So this is only the fifth year, I guess, fifth year. And so we won this, and this trail is going to be part of the East Coast Greenway, and it will connect the Crooked River State Park with the Sugar Mill Tabby Ruin site.
Okay.
And that'll be a 10-foot wide, separated from traffic, going down Spur 40. Now, how many visitors to Crooked River State Park?
200,000.
200,000. How many kids go to Crooked River Elementary School?
Oh, I don't know that answer.
Probably
I should.
At least 300.
Yeah.
Crooked River Elementary School is our most popular school for walking and biking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It does. It comes through there, so that trail comes in.
So that trail will be very useful.
Well, the idea of it is, oddly, this is a tough one for me, but you have to think long term, but only receive short term accomplishments. And so this is 4 miles is big, but that's the entire trail will be 11 miles, and part of it's already on the ground, but there's some tough spots to get around. And we chose that one. The city actually chose it. City of St. Mary's chose it because it connects the state park to give some opportunities for folks to come down and visit restaurants and shops downtown. We want any type of trail to, drive tourism and drive local economies. I like trails to drive our local folks to safe outdoor recreation. I like moms and dads to be able to walk and ride their kids to school.
Yeah.
And for folks to get on their e-bike and go explore from Douglas Drive and go explore the state park for the first time. Those are exciting things to me. So I'm okay with short, small wins.
Yes.
Small wins. And so that's a big thing. I'm excited for Winding Road. Winding Road is in the process. It's going to get a 10-foot wide separated trail there. Then it'll connect to the trail that goes from Spur 40 down. But when Winding Road is completed, then it'll connect to the trail on Laurel Island Parkway.
That's what I was about to say. Okay. And
then it'll connect across all the way to US 17 and then go north to Woodbine Trail. And then we can possibly bring the Woodbine Trail south. So I get excited about trails and greenways and exploring. Are they perfect? No, they're not perfect. Are they always change? Yeah, it's always going to change.
Yeah.
You'll see a new sign. You'll see a new bird also. You'll see a new plant that you didn't see the last time. So with that, that's pretty exciting. I love that outdoors. So I can get very driven on cycling and biking in the outdoors on trails and greenways.
Well, there's a lot of it here, and I don't think people are aware. Like you said, they come to your shop and they're like, where can we bike safely,
And, I quickly, if I see a set of bikes on the back of the vehicle, I tell them to go park in the grass over there, and I'm going to give you the route.
Yeah, I'll give you all the routes.
You're going to go downtown. You can go downtown and explore out to the state park. If you want to ride, you can park right here as a trailhead. We call those trailheads.
Well, you also have the Camden Cycling Club, correct?
Yeah. Our cycling club's been very helpful, and they do a lot with us. They have a fundraiser event in November, and those fundraisers have been very instrumental in providing bike racks across the community for different areas like schools and nonprofit areas. We received a grant a few years back, and it was simply for bike racks. We put 10 bike racks out at all public locations, and there's one over here by the courthouse that we put out years ago. Yeah, so
I remember us talking about bike racks, and we put one in St. Mary's as well.
Yeah, so those are good. So yes, my focus being in the biking world can get very focused on trails and greenways, but I don't like to take away from the other activities of outdoor recreation, because if you own a fishing pole, you're part of it. If you own a kayak, if you own a sea-doo,
and there are so many places here to actually fish and put in your kayak.
Yeah, so I want to tell you about one more spot that is unbelievably. If you haven't had a chance to go explore this,
tell me about it.
There's very little signage there, and through the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Grant, starting in 2020, Camden County received, let's say it's been about $12 million. And that $12 million is set aside 27,000 acres of property known as the Ceylon Wildlife Management Area.
And that is spelled CH, because when I first went to look it up, I'm like, where's this place? Because with my Jeep, everybody's like, oh, just take it out there. And I'm like, where? Where do you take it?
C-E-Y.
Is it C-E?
C-E-Y.
Did I say C-H? Sorry. C-E, yeah.
C-E-Y-L-O-N.
Yes.
And it's a wildlife management area off of exit 14 and off of exit 7. And like I say, one's known as Upper Ceylon, one known as Lower Ceylon. Now, the person we call that's enjoying an outdoor recreation, we call them an outdoor enthusiast.
Okay. Yes.
So, and you go visit Ceylon, you may be that outdoor enthusiast who likes to hike and explore new trails. Perfect. You may be that person that likes to primitive camp with no recreational facilities available. If you're a primitive camper, that's available. You may be that person that likes to go explore the waterfront because it connects on the Satilla River and the Crooked River. So there's opportunities to launch a kayak.
Yep.
Or fishing opportunities, or there's there's hunting out there also, recreational hunting too. So those are incredible spots to us. There's gophers. Maybe there's gopher tortoises and certain snakes out there that have been protected. So maybe your element is conservation or protection element inside there. Your outdoor enthusiastic level is all about protecting.
Well, do you know something else that's big in this area is bird watching?
Bird watching.
And I had no idea, no idea that bird watching was so good here. But yes, people have told me. I get to see all the, even Joe Helton's pictures of different birds that she takes. It's just amazing. But yeah, bird watching is a huge thing here.
Bird watching is, and once again, that's the uniqueness of an outdoor enthusiast. There's so many different elements of that outdoor enthusiast. If I could put different examples on it, but basically, if you're a baseball player, you like a baseball field. But if you're an outdoor enthusiast, you got to dig a little bit deeper and find out where that interest is at. Because one of the things that I had to find out was, what is Ceylon?
Yes. What is it?
What is it?
Yeah.
What is the name? And so the other part of it is the Macamba track. Macamba, there's a location called Macamba track. Well, the way I understand it, there was two communities in our area known as Upper Ceylon, Lower Ceylon.
Okay.
And these are communities that had a town center.
What?
They had sawmills. They were a town center. And if you want to explore a little bit of it, you go to Ceylon up at exit 14, and you go see how large the cemetery is on this property. And it's, once again, it's a cemetery that I assume is still active.
Yeah.
But when you go see it and you see some of the old-time names that's up there and you look at how large the cemetery is, you go like, oh, my stars. Now, I had to be willing to put on my hiking boots.
I was about to say,
drive out with a bottle of water, hike inside there. Then all of a sudden I found this incredible cemetery plots with that show you in a historical fashion how large this area of Ceylon was for a community.
Wow.
And so that's just part of that. The same trip I took Darlene up there, we hiked in, and so we love to go explore. Me and Darlene we'll seek out a state park. And already this year, or actually the end of last year, we visited 2 new state parks, Cloudland Canyon State Park and then Providence Canyon State Park on the west part of our state. And we're trying to be more diligent about state parks in our area. So anyway, so Ceylon, the same trip, Darlene and there, we're exploring the cemetery. We're just trying to be very respectful for it, and appreciate the community that was there. We hiked all the way down to the creek, to the river, and dolphins were pushing in bait fish.
What?
Dolphins were coming up in the river to see that. And this is an easy walk, an easy side of it also. So when you start adding outdoor recreation, maybe your interest is bird watching. Maybe your interest is disc golf. Maybe your interest is kayaking. Maybe you're a scuba diver. Maybe you're, you want to do historical sites, like the Sugar Mill Tabby Ruins site and Dungeness Ruins on Cumberland Island. You fall into outdoor recreation. And with that, all those things are available right here in our community.
They are.
Where you can pack a lunch. You can pick that lunch up at Spouse's Bakery. Okay?
Or even like mark it on the square.
Mark it on the square.
There's plenty of places.
You can pick it up there.
Yeah.
And, a bottle of Gatorade and go explore it. Now, if you just go a little bit further out, you can go to see 400,000 acres of Okefenokee Swamp.
Yeah. That's in our.
Right in our community here. You can stretch down. So if we're continue to work, number one, we would like to see a network of trails and greenways in our community that was well marked, well identified, that took in certain points of interest, such as the state park and the Sugar Mill Tabby Ruin site and Woodbine. We would connect them all together. And yes, we have a plan for that, and we have it on paper, and we've got it dialed in. Those are exciting things. Now, I'm going to do 2 definitions, just so everybody knows this. If we have a term greenway, any community can have a greenway. A greenway is simply kind of a non-motorized transportation network.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Simple there. But in our community, we also have a thing called rail to trails. Rail to trails is what Woodbine Riverwalk is.
Okay.
Woodbine is the original railroad that provided service from New York into Florida, and it was a passenger service, and that train that ran on that was known as the Silver Meteor.
Okay.
Train. And it actually stopped in Woodbine. It had a personnel would embark in Woodbine and travel all the way to New York. So the Silver Meteor was using that. So the historical element there of an abandoned railroad has now been turned into a community rail trail, a rail now trail. And so not every community can have a rail trail, but we do. Now, that rail trail is abandoned for 68 miles.
Really?
68 miles from south of Woodbine all the way to Riceboro, Georgia.
Okay.
So that puts you just on the edge of Savannah with a separated trail. On that trail, 68 miles, it's got 42 bridges. Crosses.
Wow. Like every few miles.
It's amazing when you go on it. If you'd like to explore White Oak section of it, White Oak section is a natural surface, easy to navigate. It has a fishing pier off of it, but yeah, there's many opportunities there.
Yeah.
So here's is kind of some wrap up thoughts here. Great way to see these things on the e-bike. Absolutely. I have them in Camden Bicycle Center. You can do it on a traditional bike also. You can explore the area. The number one thing is you got to get out of the house.
You do have to get out of the house. And that's something that, I didn't grow up with cell phones and stuff. So we always played outside, and we had to do it using our imagination.
Right.
And here you don't even have to use your imagination. You can, or you don't have to, because we have so much, here in Camden County to offer, to do. There's so much between, biking and disc golf and pickleball and fishing and kayaking, and there's just so much to do. And I could keep you here for like 12 hours and let you just tell me all the things about Camden County's history and how we got here. But I'm pretty sure that Kanan's ready for me to wrap this up. So anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to talk things all outdoor recreation. And don't think for one second that we're not going to have you back on here to talk some more things.
Well, I love coming. Thank you for the invitation to come over. And I just love the outdoors. And I just want to share that so other people can go and explore that also. I'm always thinking about where's my next location I'm going to go explore.
Yeah.
So, do that.
Yes, me too. So, hopefully our listeners have gotten something out of today and just kind of know how to explore Camden County. So thank you, Terry. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks to you guys for listening. Please like and subscribe. And don't forget to check out our next episode.